my power, consistent with applicable law, to protect anyone who calls Nashville home. What's clear today is that people who do not share our values of safety and community have the authority to cause deep community harm. We're still working to determine more about what happened over the weekend, but what we know right now, based on public statements, is that state and federal officials coordinated without us to engage in traffic enforcement actions clearly intended to target immigration concerns. I have requested, and Director of Law Wally Dietz has sent a letter to the state seeking the names and charges against any individuals arrested during this weekend's actions. I want to reinforce MMPD has asserted to us that they were not involved in these actions. Their role is to protect all residents of our community who are subjected to harm and to hold criminals accountable. My office is in regular contact with the Metro Nashville Police Department to ensure we keep the public updated and deliver accurate information and the accountability the community deserves. Immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility. MMPD officers are not ICE. What's clear is that federal and state authorities are intent on enforcing immigration law. Their approach is not our understanding of what a Nashville for all of us looks like, and we're grateful to our community partners who make all of our residents feel welcome. And I am pleased to be joined this afternoon by Hal Cato from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, who has an important announcement about exactly that partnership. Hal, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and for the opportunity to be here. I'm here to announce that the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, in partnership with Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, Conexión Americas, and Turk, will be launching a new fund called the Belonging Fund. We want to make sure that the immigrant community in this town knows that we have their back, and the fund will raise dollars that will support the needs of our immigrant community, especially those who've been affected by the ICE raids yesterday, providing funds to support childcare, transportation, housing assistance, food insecurity, and really anything else that they need. Last year, we did the Imagine Nashville survey, and the number one value that came out of that research was the sense of belonging that people have in this community. More than 75% of our immigrant population that answered that survey said that they feel like they belong here. And this fund has been set up to let them know that we agree, and we want to make sure that their needs are cared for. We'll be announcing, the fund will be going live this afternoon, and we're hoping that the community will see it as a way to let our immigrant neighbors know that they're supported and that we want them here.
To Hal's point, as far as we can tell, this is a first of its kind fund supporting our immigrant and refugee community in moments of crisis, which have been many in that community over the past several weeks. And it will be online today, cfmt.org/belonging. With that, happy to take questions. Yeah.
We've been hearing that there may be more of these types of sweeps that may occur in Nashville. I don't know if it's in the near future or far flung, but in either case, is the city considering doing anything to prevent this, or are you in a position where you're powerless?
Austin, this is a tough one because what we saw over the weekend was actions that happened on state routes with no coordination with local officials. So yes, I continue to be concerned about the mechanism for these actions, and I think what they've demonstrated is that they can occur at times and locations of their choosing without our involvement. Stephen?
Can the city provide any legal assistance to people affected, or will the Belonging Fund include legal funds?
Belonging Fund is not set up to support legal services. You probably know we did have immigration legal services available through an allocation of American Rescue Plan Act dollars, but that was originally intended to be more of pathway to citizenship and support in that regard. I think what you'll probably see going forward is independent efforts to look at scenarios related to deportation, but that's not what the Belonging Fund is constituted for. Yeah?
Do you have an exact number of how many people were detained?
We do not. That is one of the reasons we have started to engage formally with state and federal officials to try to get more about that. And Wally, I don't know if you want to say anything more on that topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, a few moments ago, I sent a letter to the Assistant General Counsel at Tennessee Highway Patrol asking the THP to identify all individuals they arrested as part of this enforcement action and a list of all charges pending. I will send a similar letter to ICE I am determining where to send that letter, whether to DC or New Orleans or to a representative here, but hopefully by the end of the day, I will have a letter to ICE asking for the same information.
I'm going to come here.
Have you been able to talk to Governor Bill Lee yet?
I have spoken to Governor Lee, but it was very briefly about kind of the broader context of local and state relationships, because I flagged that this seems like a moment of significant tension increase between local and state.
What did he say?
He is, I mean, I would say, aware of the complicated landscape. Yeah.
I think this might be a question more for Wally to answer,
Sure.
but part of the special session law that goes into effect on July 1st focuses around the restriction for immigration records.
Yeah.
Do you guys believe you'll be able to get these records, in here?
I'm going to let Wally answer that also, because we have talked about there's sort of the world today as we kind of get past that 100-day mark of a new federal administration, but then I think there's also the world of July 1st, which is when new state law takes effect. So, Wally.
Yes, I believe the THP records of the arrests will be available. At least the name of the individual who was arrested and what charges were filed. Other parts of that THP file may be part of their criminal investigation, which those records are protected, but I do not believe the name and the charges filed are secret or should be secret. As far as ICE goes, your guess is as good as mine. They have been totally opaque in responding to requests for information.
I'm going to come back here.
In other documents now, where people are putting names and trying to say that this family member is missing, we don't know where they are. How can you speak to those families, and what is your advice that they should be doing if they are just terrified, not sure when they, or if, or how, or when they can see their family?
Yeah, I think my understanding is that the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition will be joining the Immigrant Caucus this afternoon at a press conference here. I would definitely encourage families to be very, very responsible about how they share information, and as much as possible to be engaged with legal representation, because there are considerable risks with sharing some information with third parties that are not trusted. So I would just, I would highly recommend taking advantage of what legal representation is out there specifically for these circumstances. And, this is a scenario where knowing your rights is really, really important. Yeah.
Today marks the third time you openly say that MMPD played no role in this operation. What would be your message to community activists who perhaps think this is not the right information that you're sharing? I know that some police cars were present at the parking lot of the ICE building at 501 Brick Church Park. Obviously, the statement that you gave was that they were there in case a protest would get out of hand. But some community members say the police cars were there even before they showed up.
So we did receive a request for information that morning in advance, and so I think they had expected to be there, but it was not with any additional information. Right now, that is the only information that I have about their involvement. We did have a media organization reach out, and it turns out there was an unrelated incident involving violent crime, and somebody who was completely disconnected from any of THP's actions that did involve separate federal law enforcement. And so I would say encourage everybody to wait, to not necessarily be the first to weigh in on things until we know more information. We take that approach too. I would not be asserting this if we had not talked directly to MMPD leadership, if we had not had verifiability through our Department of Law on all of this correspondence and policy. And so I would encourage people to be very mindful of the fact that all of this is federally driven. And so we are doing our best on the ground to take care of one another, and that is why our local partnerships and our support for one another matter so much. I'm going to come back to
Will Metro be contributing to the Community Foundation Fund?
We have not yet. I mean, this is something that has developed quickly under the same principles of that we spoke about in the state of Metro. with regard to where we go from Imagine Nashville. We did have in our budget request some project management money specific to our ongoing partnership with Community Foundation. Haven't yet made a determination if we can use any of that money for this. I'm good with that.
When we got a response from THP about this operation, they called it a public safety operation that targeted areas with suspected gang activity with a history of serious traffic crashes. These were areas of Paragon Mills, Antioch, South Nashville, as you well know, places where the Hispanic community is well known to congregate in Plaza Mariachi, Buchanan. Do you feel like a public safety operation would have coordinated with the city more rather than what they are calling this?
This does seem to fall outside of standard operating procedure, and I would say our Metro Nashville Police Department and honestly, our Nashville Department of Transportation are both very aware of where safety concerns are, particularly in Southeast Nashville. And again, it's one of the reasons we have a new Southeast precinct coming online later this year. It is a reason we have expanded our detail efforts to make sure that we can respond to areas. So this is not something we requested, and it is not something we have supported. Stephen?
Given the volume of stops, it seems likely that MNPD was aware this was going on. In the middle of it, is there any way the city can alert people or?
Will be, I mean, I'd say as we kind of absorb what has happened, I think that's one of the biggest questions we have. I think also, though, that's why we want to be in a position where we can respond to impacted families as quickly as possible. It's why Director Dietz is engaged in follow-up efforts to see if we can identify who was impacted. I think we have to be very, very careful based on where we know the landscape is shifting with law to make sure that we are compliant with applicable law there. Yeah.
I spoke with an immigration coalition that was out there. They say that they're in contact with at least 3 people that were arrested and then released because they had asylum paperwork on them. They said that there were other people that had licenses or other documentation, but that was just not something that was being accepted, I guess. Is there more information about this too, just to kind of have that accountability of what are they looking for and how do you even prepare yourself? I mean,
this is one of the most challenging elements of this, I think, as Director Dietz has shared. Efforts to get an understanding of the nature of the operation, the nature of the stops themselves, the preparation that anyone could make for this. It is very challenging. So I had not heard those accounts, but I guess I would say I'm also not surprised to hear that it does feel a little bit chaotic.
Let's do 2 more.
Yeah.
Yesterday, pro-immigrants organization was there and talk about they have information for our people in the community was arrested there, didn't receive any water and any, health things like, go to the bathroom and everything the right way. Any possibilities, you can check it out, that things, and working, we have better situation when they arresting us.
We've heard across the country deep concerns about detention, just the circumstances there for people who have been detained. Unfortunately, again, as Wally has indicated, this is a place of opacity. We know that there were some people denied entry to the ICE facility, and so it is not a local operation, and it's a very difficult place for us to be able to make any guarantees about the conditions inside. And so this is a very similarly challenging matter, and it's why we're trying, as we have the capability to take care of people, we're stepping up to do that when and where we can. Thanks. Go back there. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, sorry. So earlier this year, the General Assembly passed some legislation that tried to criminalize sanctuary policies implemented by local governments. Is that something that concerns you guys? You plan to challenge it, or?
We're deeply concerned about it, and I'll let Director Dietz offer more because I know we are still waiting to complete some analysis of that legislation. But I'll say, in short, yes, we're concerned.
Yes, and there's good reason to be concerned because the state law was crafted quickly. It includes a criminal component. Violations of the state law could be a Class C felony, and so we're taking it very seriously. I'm working with counsel to analyze that law, and analyze our response to it. We try to follow the law. This was an effort of a state to get involved in what is typically reserved for the federal government. And so we are looking at issues, and we have not made any determination.
Great. And thank you, everybody. Thanks for helping share information about the Belonging Fund. We think this is going to be